teenage pregnancy. A lot of people ask us, is it because Mexico is Catholic? No. Birth control is free. Birth control is available. It's just bad choices. We always joke with the girls and said, did you fail biology? No, I got an A, so why did you get pregnant? It's not about not knowing the human nature of the bodies. It's about a wrong decision. So this group, everyone told them, you know what, your life is over. You will never complete anything. You are ruined, blah, blah, blah. The worst part here is that we have a large amount of grandmothers who are 30. So the grandmother was also a very young mother herself. So what do we do as a community? We saw in the papers on a daily basis, Mexico has a very high rate of teenage pregnancy. Sonora, which is our state, has a very high rate. Nogales has the highest rate. We just saw information, but we saw nothing around the community. So one of the students that was in our group doing her social work hours as my assistant, she told me, you know what, I have a friend who had a child at 16. She's graduating from college. Can we call her? Sure. So we told her the basics of community organizing. We brought the media, and she said, you know, I was a mother at 16. It was awful, but I had some support, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, the phone was ringing. We had 20 young girls who had children, and at this moment, it's a tragedy because we're having girls as young as 13, 14 having babies. And that has a lot to do with the house is empty. Mom is working until 6 p.m. or the night shift, and the girls are home alone, and the boys are home alone. So put a 14-year-old with a 14-year-old girl, and we have a baby at the end of 9 months. So what we have been doing, this is one of the first founders of the group. She has now remarried and has a 7-year-old boy. She was 16 when she had her first baby. We asked them, what do you want to do? What is easier for you to do? And we leave the room. We don't want them to think we want to, run the show. We leave the room, and when we come back, they say, you know what? We want to take culinary lessons, baking. Because, in Mexico, we love to celebrate birthdays and piñatas and having a lot of fun, and that means baking. So if you can bake cakes and you can bake cupcakes, then you can have a business running from home. You have to run it from home because there is no daycare for the child. The mother is so young that she cannot stop working like our grandmothers were. Our grandmothers didn't work. Our older grandmothers were always around taking care of the children, but now grandmothers are 30. They still have 33 more years to work. They are not going to take care of the children. So the young woman who is 15 or 16 has to quit school to take care of the child. And by the way, the boys just disappear. It's like magic. You have a child and the father disappears everywhere in the States and Mexico, everywhere. I have a son, and I tell him, well, he's old now, but I used to tell him, nothing would embarrass me more than someone chasing you for a paternity test. That's embarrassing. You have a child, end of the story. So I don't have a daughter, but I do fight for girls. So this group decided this is what they wanted to do. Many of them work from home. Then they moved to doing nails, acrylic nails. And I joke and tell them, well, you make more money than I do doing nails. They do a lot of hair coloring and stuff. They work from home. So what do? We gather a scholarship for them to complete their GD, how do you translate it? To have your high school diploma. It's 40 pesos for exam. That's like $2. But when you are working in this poverty conditions, you don't have $2 to pay for the public exams. So we gather a scholarship for them. They're working there, taking care of the children. But the most important thing this group is doing for the community, not for themselves, for the community, is we developed a program with specialists, and we recorded a video of their life of a teenage mom, starting at 6 a.m. today, ending at 6 a.m. tomorrow, 24 hours. Oh, babies are great. They smell great for 5 minutes. And one of the girls was saying, I was ready to graduate from high school. I had my math test, and when I woke up in the morning, remember, she comes from a single mother family herself. Mom is out at work. She wakes up in the morning, and the baby is screaming from earache. She couldn't graduate on time because of the earache. The other one said she had been saving to buy herself a pair of shoes. But you know what? The child got sick. So the shoes became diapers and medicine and stuff. That's the real life of a teenage mom. So this group is helping the community and helping other girls to make the right decisions. When someone who is a mother or a nun or a teacher or your pastor or the health secretary tells you not to get pregnant, it doesn't work. You have to hear it from another 16-year-old girl who got pregnant at 14 and is having a hell of a time being a mother and a student. Then you get it. So this group developed a session of develop a program of 4 sessions into the middle schools and high schools. The first session is about, do you have any questions about your sexual life? So they put all the questions anonymously in envelopes. And then a local gynecologist through video answers all of these questions that you wouldn't dare ask your mother. It's awkward, the kind of questions you can hear from a 13-year-old. It was like, is she 13 or is she 45? Amazing how much they know. They just don't have anyone to answer those questions. So the gynecologist in a video, we play that video in every of the 18 public schools, middle schools and high schools. At the beginning, of course, you have to ask for funding for the psychologist and the gas and all the money that takes to run the program. Session number 3 is the video from the girl being a mother herself. And the fourth session and the end of the program is you write your dream. And one of the questions is, what do you want to be in 4 years, 5 years? None of them mentions a child in the future. And all of them say, you know what, I'm not ready to be a mother. What we're doing now is we're getting together, boys and girls, because we have been talking so much and in this situation right now about empowering women. But you know what? It takes two to make a baby. You have to bring the boy into the conversation. Do not leave the boys outside the door. It doesn't work. Do not try to educate the girl herself. Educate the guy. Educate him about domestic violence. Your grandfather hit your grandmother. Your father hit your mother. She won't let you hit her. And if she won't let you hit her, then you will kill her. So let's talk about not hitting her, okay? When you're 13 and 8 and 5. Because it's been 50, 60 years of hitting. The breaking the myths. This is what we call social housing. Is that the word? When the government, through your paycheck, deducts part of your salary for housing taxes, and then you're able to buy your own place. This is a 4-story building in one of the most dangerous areas of Nogales, and one of the girls we also had in our office doing her social service lived there. And when she heard all of that about community organizing and how to start a grassroots group, she said, you know what, I'm going to bring my neighbors, because we have developed this program where we clean our building. Is the only clean building in the neighborhood. We have some flowers outside, and each families from each floor clean every Sunday. And if you're not going to be around, you call your friend from the second floor and say, you know what, I'm not going to be here next Monday. Can you do my work and I will do it the next week, blah, blah, blah. So they came. We provided all the information. It was going to be a small fund, like of 10,000 pesos. It was $1,000 at that moment to buy more plastic gloves, more plastic bags, etc. So we left the room. We explained how to make a budget, etc. We come back 3 hours later, and there's a woman who raises her hand, and she says, you know what? We're not taking the money. We don't need the grant, because in Mexico, whenever you have money, there are problems. We are okay the way we are. We will continue to provide our own brooms and our own plastic bags, blah, blah, blah. And we will continue with community organizing ourselves without money from the foundation. That was one of the biggest lessons of my life. Not every community program needs money. They said no, because we have never had a problem among us. We don't want to have a problem. Lesson learned. The other one, the grieving group. You might have heard about the violence on Mexican border towns in the last few years. Awful violence. Every family in every neighborhood had a child killed, a husband killed, and they had no place to mourn, to grieve. Why? Because you were, oh, that's the family where they killed their son. Oh, that's the father. Those are the children whose father was killed during the drug issue that happened last night, blah, blah, blah. So those families came to a Catholic church, not being Catholic, all of them, said, we need help. So the nuns called us and said, do you have a way of starting a grieving group? And I said, yes, it's exactly the same thing. All of these groups work under the idea of the AA groups for Alcoholical Anonymous. AA for alcohol, yes? Only an autistic mother can talk to an autistic mother. Only a pregnant teenage child can talk to another one. So this grieving group started like this. The first year, it was only for parents who had lost a child. We couldn't say if your child was killed, by the way. No, we wouldn't stigmatize the group. Anyone who had a child whose child had died, whose son. We had from suicide to diabetes to accidents to everything. And the most important thing is that an anesthesiologist, a doctor, came into the group and said he was more familiar than anyone with death. He was the one in charge of coming out of the surgery room, telling the family, you know what, your family member did survive. But when his son died, there was no way he could find comfort. So he became part of that group, and he also every day when they met, they would explain the causes of the death of one of the uh, cases in the group, diabetes. So it became an education program within the grieving program. At this moment, there are 20 families, and starting this year, they open it for any kind of grieving. Okay, it doesn't have to be the death of a child. It's just a grieving group, which is an amazing way of explaining your emotions. But the most important thing, and if you can see on the right, we have men. It's very difficult in Mexico for men to come to this kind of groups. Almost it's non-existent. You know, the man is the strong one. And they died of a heart attack right away. So this is what is changing. Into the domestic violence groups that also come within these groups, men are coming. 30% of the people who come to the groups are now men. It was zero 10 years ago. So that's part of the education program of the programs themselves. It's not the goal to bring men. It has become a side effect of the group, which is probably the most important one. The community center. This area is the cathedral. The cathedral has allowed us to use their rooms as a community center. We tell them, well, you know what, you're in the downtown area, a lot of people come here, why don't you let us use it? For me as a Catholic, it has been a lot of pressure to work with the old priests. It was an old way of working, getting the money and doing the programs themselves.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
At this moment, we get the money for the programs they used to run, and at some point they see that we're taking away the money. We say, no, we charge 5% for work, and you get 95% at the end of the day. So the Nogales Cathedral at this moment, the sewing classes are there. We have been running this program for 9 years. Women enroll in the program every August. Yes, please. Uh, for me, those two pictures represent why I'm here in India today. These women sent me their pictures as the ADD group of what they did on Friday. I wasn't there on Friday. These women didn't know how to take a needle and thread in January. By mid-May, this is what they have been able to do. The woman on the left, she's very, very short. She's from Chiapas. Chiapas in southern Mexico. People in southern Mexico are much shorter than in northern Mexico. So they come to the border. They decide they will not try to go to the States, and they cannot find any clothes that fit them. So most of the time, they buy their clothes from used place, like the Goodwill and things like that on the Mexican side,